Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and I want to talk about Disney's new blockbuster film, Wish, and how, as dungeon masters, we deal with Wish, and how wishes are dealt with in the film. Very fascinating. Uh, Warning: spoilers for Disney's 2023 Wish film. So, Wish has a really interesting concept. It is in a fantasy land where there is a king who has the ability to grant people their wishes using magic, right? But he is dealing with this young caster, and she has a different opinion on how wishes should be granted and how magic should be used in context to wishes, right? So let's get into the differences between the young female caster and the king and the male king, both who have the ability to deal with magic, but have different ideas on how um, have very different ideas on how people's wishes should be granted. So basically, the way this world works is you make your wish, right? And it's this sphere of light, right? And then you give it to the king, and the king has all these wishes, right? But not everyone's wish will be granted. Only the people who he chooses to have their wishes be granted will be granted. But once the wish is given to the king, the person who made the wish forgets it, right? So what the film is saying is that one, a wish can be put into a physical object, right? And then it can be transferred between different people. That's very interesting, right? But once it's given to the king, once you give your wish to the king, there's a chance that it will be fulfilled, right? But if but there's a chance it will go unfulfilled, and most wishes go unfulfilled, right? Now, the young female caster in the movie, like the main protagonist, her concept is that the king should give wishes back, wishes that are not going to be fulfilled. He should give them back to the people so that they can fulfill them without magic, right? That is extremely interesting, right? So, so where does that leave us as dungeon masters, considering our our current structure for Dungeons and Dragons for Wishes, right? So, what is our current structure for Dungeons and Dragons for Wishes? Wish is a ninth level spell, and it's one of the most dangerous concepts in the entire game, right? So, one, you can get a wish which can reproduce any spell in the PHB, or you can get a wish and then you could structure that wish in the way that you think is appropriate, right? And that is very interesting too, in that structuring a wish in the way that you think is appropriate, then are you going to get what you want from the dungeon master, or are they going to try to monkey paw you, right? That's our current structure, right? Well, one, if we look at wish, it changes it, and I love some of these concepts, and we can bring this in. So one of the things we can do is we can, put something within Dungeons and Dragons that would allow us to use wishes in exactly the same way as the film, right? That you can take a wish, turn it into a spherical ball of light, and then give it to any creature that is capable of fulfilling that wish. Now, who would that be in Dungeons and Dragons? Well, first of all, dragons, right? Dragons actually have the ability to. They would very much have the ability to actually grant wishes. In addition to that, deities, and here's the other one: clerics. The idea that clerics could um, could collect up these wishes, and that the wishes could be of value, right? Like um, all of that is very interesting, and I think very useful to think about. Um, and the other thing is, I think it's important for us as dungeon masters to look at this Wish film and see, you know, exactly how this film processes wishes, because wishes are a distinct resource, a distinct power, a distinct puzzle within Dungeons and Dragons, right? And so it's really fascinating to see a different narrative platform look at wishes in a different way. So I think the best use of this is the idea that for our player characters, that we could do the same thing. We could capture their wish in a wish shard, right? And then that that shard is more valuable, more powerful, right, and can be passed as a currency to creatures that have the ability to grant wishes. And I also think we should really be thinking about Dungeons and Dragons from the perspective of it has three creatures that can, three different groupings of creatures that can grant wishes, which is any creature that's a cleric, deities, and finally dragons, right? And so I definitely encourage you to see Wish. The construct of how they deal with wishes in there is absolutely every single dungeon master content. And also I think it is definitely appropriate within Dungeons and Dragons to kind of twist that narrative that we've been dealing with for so long. Because it gets tired of, oh, I'm gonna make my wish, but then the dungeon master can try to monkey paw it. It's good to break that. Every single word of that is my humble opinion. What's important is when I get to hear your humble opinion, when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider liking, subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.